What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Gary, and on this 6th episode of the Separation of Concerns in Apex Common tutorial series, we're going to go over the fflib SObjectUnitOfWork class and how to use it. Alright guys, so in this 6th episode of the Apex Common Separation of Concerns tutorial series that I'm putting together to hopefully make this all easier for everybody to use in the future, I wanted to go over the fflib SObjectUnitOfWork class because this one is really important. If you are using the Apex Common library to implement separation of concerns, this will act as your unit of work. So basically this class implements the unit of work pattern, which we discussed in the previous video. So if you don't know what that is, go check out the other video and you'll get a little up to speed if that's confusing at all. But basically this gives us a way to basically unify our transactions across our Salesforce code base, right? And again, I go into that a lot in the other video, so I'm not going to waste any more time here on it. So the first thing that we're going to do is just see how we implement the fflib SObjectUnitOfWork class and how we actually, leverage it in some code. And then once I've done that, I'll go over some of the methods in this class that I may not have actually gone over in the example. Yeah, that's about it. If you want to know why you would care to do this, because I always end up talking about that in these videos, it's because of two things. Number one, you get to implement the unit of work design pattern by leveraging this class. It's a great foundation that basically puts all the pieces together that you need to be able to leverage that pattern. And that pattern makes it so that you can, unify your code base, as in all of your code will have the same kind of error handling, transaction management, DML transactions, etc. It'll all work the same. It'll all be consistent. And whether you realize that now or not, it's super important. The second thing is, when we get to Apex mocks, or just mocking in general, eventually, you'll see that having something like this, even if you don't use Apex Common, is important. You cannot do DML mocking without something like this. Technically, you don't have to use this class, nor do you have to use Apex Common, nor do you even technically have to do a unit of work pattern to achieve what we'll do in the test mocking eventually, but you need something like this set up, or else there's no way to do mocking. And we'll go over that way in the future here when we get to episode 15 or 16, I think, where we go over unit tests and all that magical stuff. Okay. All right, so now that we've gone over, all the junk, let's do an example of this. Let's do an example of actually leveraging this class. So back in episode 4, we created this application class. If you haven't watched the fflib application class video, go on back, check that out, and come back. But basically, we've created this application class, and in this application class, we've created a unit of work factory. And basically what this ends up doing is, when we call the application class and grab our unit of work, we are basically retrieving an instance of the fflib SObjectUnitOfWork with our object types passed in. And this IDML, if you use a custom IDML, which I will show you what that is later. This is actually what you'd be instantiating up here typically, although there are other overloads. And again, we go over that a bit in the 4th episode of this series, and you can get all the information you want over every single one of these methods in the GitHub wiki that I created. It literally goes over each one of these methods and how to utilize it. Okay, so important stuff. We're using this application class, and this application class calls this unit of work factory, which when you call the new instance method on this unit of work factory class, it will return to you a new fflib SObjectUnitOfWork. Important to know how that works, so the next parts aren't super confusing. All right, so we're just gonna make some random unit of work example and write some glorious code together. Actually, it's not going to be very glorious, but it'll get the point across maybe. No promises, I have no idea. Okay, so we're just going to make a public void, we'll just call it object creator for lack of a better method name off the top of my head. And the first thing that we're going to do is create an fflib SObjectUnitOfWork. Actually, it'll be, am I crazy? Just want to make sure I'm not crazy here. It's been a minute since I've done this. Yeah. SObjectUnitOfWork. Unit of work. Actually, I would rather it be that so it's more clear. If you don't know the IDE that I'm working in right now, it's IntelliJ. I have a whole tutorial over how to set IntelliJ up for Salesforce using the Illuminated Cloud 2 plugin. Definitely go check it out if you're a little lost now. It's not all that different from Visual Studio Code, but honestly, if you use it, you'll realize how much better it is. At least in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to make a new fflib SObjectUnitOfWork, call that, or basically retrieve that variable from the application class, and call the new instance method that we looked at just a moment ago to create our new instance of our of a unit of work, right? Okay, cool. So we've got this unit of work variable here, and now we want to create some records, right? So we'll say list of cases. We'll call this new cases. And we'll just say case and I don't know. I'll give it a subject equal to hi, status equal to new, and I think that's actually all I need. We'll come back to this though, because I want to register a relationship to the contact record that we're going to make. So actually, let's create those contacts. I can actually simplify this. I'd rather simplify this. Boom. Cool, 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 cool. Is it going to be upset about this? Right. Do, 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 do. Okay. So we've got our new list of cases. Let's create a list of contacts. New contacts equals new list of contact and new contact where the last name equals tacos and the first name equals chocolate tacos. Cool. All right, so basically we're going to do the following. We're going to take our unit of work now that we've got our new contacts that we want to register to be created, and we'll say unit of work dot register new. Oh, allergies are killing me today. And we'll register these new contacts, right, in our unit of work. Now, what this is doing is this is basically saving in memory our new contacts. We're not committing them to the database yet. We're just saving them in this unit of work for later when we commit everything at the exact same time. Now, the next thing I want to do is do unit of work, register new, and add my new cases. I'm not going to pretend like I remember this one because I haven't used it in a bit. But there's a method in here called register relationship. And we need to basically register this relationship between the relationship between the contact, or sorry, the contact and the cases. So we'll say register relationship SObject record. This will be, for simplicity's sake, new cases 0. The related to field will be the case dot contact ID, and the SObject that it's related to will be the new contacts 0. Right? And of course I need to actually call that from my unit of work. That's important. Cool. So now this is fairly important, right? We've got our contact that's registered, our unit of, or sorry, our new cases that are registered, and then we have a relationship between the two that is registered. And again, all this stuff is in memory, right? It's nothing has actually happened yet. We're just storing all this in basically a JSON object that will all be committed here in a moment. So the next thing that we'd want to do, now that we've got all this stuff registered, set up, whatever, is we do unit of work, commit work. And what this will end up doing is actually taking our contact, cases, and this relationship setup and committing it all to the actual database when this is hit here. Right, so normally you'd want to wrap this in a try catch just in case something goes wrong, and then you can, return errors as needed. I'm just going to make this a general exception to make this a little bit easier to get through. Okay, so one last thing I just want to double check because I made this other application class pretty quick. Looks like I did something wrong. So let's bring that up here and check out what crazy thing I did. Variable does not exist Contacts for cases. Contacts. Oh, that's for that's for an example I did in another video. Let's just move on past that and save this again. Okay, cool. That worked. All right. So, pending I didn't mess any of this up, what we should see, and I will send myself back. Actually, yeah. So we'll say system.debug contact 0.id. That way we can go into the system and check this out. This is the new, oh, actually I want the case. Make sure that everything got set up right. All right, so we've got everything registered with our unit of work. We're committing it, and then after we commit it, we check out the case ID to, you know, hopefully go see that all this work was actually done, including the relationship setup. So we're going to run some anonymous Apex here, just to test this guy out. Oh, I kind of sounded Canadian with that out or something. I mean, I'm not, but I don't know. I'm watching too much How I Met Your Mother. Okay. All right. So we're going to run this class called the object creator. See what happens. I might have screwed up the code. I don't know. Okay. All right. So I did screw up the code, but it's not for the reason that I thought. At least it's not for the reason that I rambled on for about 5 minutes for, so I just decided to cut the video and come back to what the actual problem was. As I stated back in episode 4, it is very important what order you put these object types in when you're setting up your unit of work factory here. I previously had them in this order, because I just built this pretty fast as an example. But considering I wanted my contact to go in first so that I could register a relationship between the case and the contact, this is bad. I need contact to come above case so that it knows it should insert the contact before the case. So if we reverse this, this code should work perfectly fine. But be careful. Whenever you set up this unit of work factory, make sure these are in order, insertion or update order, right? If you're wanting the contact to be updated before the case or the account to be updated before the contact, which, you know what, I'm just going to go on ahead and update this because I have a feeling at some point in a future video that's going to kill me. And you need to make sure that these are in the right order. Okay, so now that I've got them in the right order in this unit of work factory, again, cover this a lot more in episode 4, so head back a couple episodes and check it out if you're confused by this. Now, if I run this class, we've got a success, which is great. So we can go check out our case in Salesforce and see that it got made. Okay, cool. It got made, and it has a relationship to good old chocolate tacos. So everything worked, which is great. And, you know, we did all of that in a single unit of work, right? We registered all of this stuff, and then we committed it all at one time. Whereas if you didn't use the unit of work, right, you didn't do this, you'd have to, you know, basically insert your contacts, then insert your cases, and then register a relationship and update your case. Or I guess you wouldn't have to do that. You could just insert your contact and then insert your cases with the contact ID you just inserted. Either way, you've got to do a couple things. It's not all bundled up together in this unit of work. Now, technically in the background, the unit of work does all those things too. But because it's all bundled together, you know, again, I've gone over this in the video before, it makes it easier for transaction management and a lot of other things. So that's basically what's happening. Now, there's a whole bunch of other methods that you can use on the unit of work class. But actually, real quick before we get into that, the goal here is for you to be able to, in the executional transaction that you're currently in, to just use one unit of work and pass this unit of work to the other methods that need to mess with that unit of work, that need to register new things or register existing things or register updates to things, among other stuff, right? So don't, make a new unit of work for every method or something. Pass this between the methods. And if you don't know, this is an object, so this is passed by reference. There's no need to pass it and return it. Just pass the reference of unit of work to your next method, update it there, and it'll come back with all those updates without you passing it back. A lot of people get confused about that. If it's an object, it gets passed to a method by reference. If it's a primitive, it's by value. It's a very important distinction that I'm probably getting way off topic on. Cool. So again, one unit of work for the entire executional context, ideally. Try not to make a whole bunch of them, and then, this becomes less useful, I'll say. Okay, cool. So let's go over the other methods in this class now that we kind of have an understanding of how it works, right? So we've already been over, the register new method. Basically, that registers new records that have yet to be, that don't exist yet in your database. Oh man, I'm gonna sneeze. Wait. Okay, it's gone. All right. But there's a lot of other stuff in here. For instance, there's this register work method, and this register work method is literally a way to do a callback. So, it's basically a way to register a callback method. So basically, what this does is if you register an IDOWork class, then you basically are registering a callback method that gets executed after your work is committed. And we'll see if I have time to go over that in this video. I don't want to make it super long. I do definitely go over that a bunch in the wiki pages and on my blog. So if you want more information on how to use IDOWork and what this register work method does, definitely check that out. There's the register email method. If you need to register an outbound email, this will allow you to register those outbound emails for your unit of work. So single email messages. If you actually want to permanently delete records, then you can use this register empty recycle bin method. It's got several overloads for different things. Register new, we've already gone over in our example. Register relationship, again, went over that in the example, but basically, right, you're going to send it the record that you want a relationship to be made on, the field that you need that relationship to be made on your record, and then the object that it should be related to. There's also the ability to register relationships for email messages. So if you want the email message to be attached to, say, a contact or a case, then make sure to register that relationship here. This one is a way to register an external ID on a field. So there's a register relationship for external ID fields. Register dirty. This is one that I think people get confused on. If you're wanting to update records, use the register dirty method. I don't know why it's called register dirty. Maybe in Java or other languages this is common. I really kind of wish they would rename this to register update or updates, but it is what it is. Register dirty is registering updates. And there's a bunch of overloads for this method, right? Lots of them. Well, I don't know if there's lots of them, but there's at least, yeah, there's quite a few. But, you know, you have options to only update specific fields, like only worry about doing the update for specific fields on there. You can actually register a parent relationship directly there. There's also a register new that allows you to do that. A lot of different variations of this. You can do register upsert. I personally do not like using upsert like ever, but every once in a while you need to do that, so you know, it's there for you. There's also register deleted, which will allow you to delete records. Register permanently deleted, which will allow you to you know, actually permanently delete things. Basically, it just calls the empty recycle bin in the register deleted methods. And then there's, you know, quite a few other ones that are less commonly used, platform event related registers, among other things. So quite a few methods in here that you might want to take a look at. It's always worth taking a look at what commit work actually does. It's pretty cool. But yeah, anyway, let's see. Should I go over IDML and IDoWork? Ooh, I have a feeling this episode is really long. I don't want to go too far into those things. If you guys really want to see that in a video format, definitely let me know and I can make it, but I feel like that's a lot. They're features that are less commonly used, but well, IDML every once in a while I've used that, but both of those things are covered in both my blog and in the GitHub wiki article that I've written for this class specifically. So if you want to know how to leverage those things and what they are, there is a in-depth explanation and example code on how to get those things done. Basically what the IDML class does, which I don't think we went over, is it allows you to do basically have a new implementation of this simple DML class here. So this is what actually gets called whenever your actual system updates are being made. So, or your DML transactions are being done, really, is what I should say. So if you're doing an insert, it's literally just eventually going to call this method here. Or if you're doing an update, it's eventually going to call this one, delete that one. You know, if you want to publish an event, it's going to call that empty recycle bin, this one. So if you don't like this implementation, which, you know, that's perfectly fine. If you don't want to use this one, you can leverage this interface that's within the fflib SObjectUnitOfWork. And so basically you'll create a class that implements the IDML interface, and you create basically a new implementation here. So you'll create an implementation for each one of these methods and basically have your own way to do inserts, updates, whatever else, right? So if you want to add error logs, or you want to do all or none transactions, potentially, things like that, then, you know, you'd create a class that implements this IDML interface and then implements each one of these methods. And then back here where you do new instance, right? There is a, by the way, that hotkey I keep using, it's Control B. It takes you to the actual like method that is referencing, right? When I'm highlighted over here, it takes you to the method that I was hovering on. There is one in here that allows you to create a new instance using a new IDML class, basically. So, if you want to override that, you have options. You don't have to use, what they've pre-built for you. I mean, this is pretty simplistic, right? Lots of places need something more robust than what you see here. So, just so you know, that's a thing that you can override and have your own implementations for all the insert updates, blah, 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 etc. Yeah. Not going to do an example, but there is an example out there that I've built for you guys if you want to check it out. All right. I think we've gone over everything. I hope. In the next episode, we've got the service layer. Cool. So we're actually getting to the three major layers in the system. So in the next episode, we'll go over the service layer and what it is, why you want to implement it, the difference between it and the domain layer, since a lot of people seem to get very confused about that, among other things. So that's it for this episode. I will hopefully see you in the next one.